Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. It's yet another episode with Max Adventure in Cloud Platform. Episode 9? Yes, it is 9. It's a wonderful Thursday morning, sunny morning in Munich. Good morning also to the guys, or good afternoon, good evening to the guys in the replay. It's not unlikely that you're rewatching this thingy. I have some exciting thing today. I'm like super confused because I've been playing until like 2 minutes before this live stream with the stuff I wanted to show you today. And actually I have no idea how we gonna do this today, but we keep it spontaneously. But before we start, and please let me know if the setup works, because I'm playing around with my setup once again, using a different tool. It's not anymore Lightstream, where you can invite a guest. I'm using Streamlabs OBS for Mac. Initially I used OBS, but it's been crashing on macOS, and there's a beta for Streamlabs OBS, so it's all kind of things I've been playing around and adjusting with my green screen, and I've been playing around with the filter on my camera until 1 minute before I started this live stream. So bear with me if I'm a little confused today, as usual. Good morning, Ronnie. Good morning, Vincent. Don't put the pressure on me. So as usual, before we start, I have a couple of things to show and share, which are super awesome. Let me also know if the microphone is okay, because you know, in my previously recorded videos, you can hear the keyboard, or I've been playing around with the camera because there's like the reflection of the screen, so I put it into night mode that is not that bright, etc. So let me go over to, in fact, what I've also done is I have a remote control on my phone to switch over to my full screen. Here we go. That's the wrong one. So here we go. As usual, a couple of blog posts in the beginning. One of my previous guests, Magnus Overt, and team colleague. He's been contributing to one app which is for US students, that they can find food and resources during this complicated times, and has put out a blog post with lots of things he has experienced in this while developing this app, plus some things of his highlights which he faced during this development time. Good morning, Ronnie. What app do you use? That's the Streamlabs stack whatever thingy. So once you scan the QR code in Streamlabs, you'll get the recommendation which app to download and how to connect. And that's pretty fine. I don't see any added value instead of just, or except switching between two different scenes right now. Right. Thanks for distracting me. With all sort of things, how to expose a calc view. Also, if you want to know more about that, I've had Vitaly Rudnitsky, another colleague of mine, on the stream the last 2 episodes. There's all sort of things pretty interesting. I'll put the link into the chat. Alrighty, perfect. Another exciting one. Another guy from the SAP community. Let me just open that. Is I challenged myself to pick Dries because he's one of the most complicated names you can imagine. Dries van Verenberg. He put some awesome blog posts out to the SAP community. It's indeed 3 blog posts about enterprise messaging. So all sort of decoupled asynchronous communication between different apps, and also put this one into the chat. Lots of effort he put into this blog post with videos from the SAP HANA Academy, with examples, I think also with references to the help documentation, with code, etc, etc. Pretty awesome. That's what we need actually, I guess. Yes, and another oldie but goldie. Another blog post by Marius Obert, using the destination service in the Cloud Foundry environment. Like, it's obvious that it's quite interesting, 12K views, because I usually underestimate the value of the destination service, and it's my colleague, which I've been talking to yesterday, meant like, well, the destination service is super underestimated. It's kind of like German engineering. He has been looking for something like that in the Azure environment, and Azure is awesome, you know. There are sweet spots in the SAP Cloud Platform. There are sweet spots in Azure. But he has been talking to me about the destination service, like the centralization of parameters, of URLs, of authentication, of all these sort of things. Pretty awesome if you want to know more about how to use it, how to also use it in Node.js or in Python. Here we go with the link. Alrighty, and last but not least, because I've been looking for some stuff in the recent days, a recommendation for a YouTube channel. It's Spring Developer. Since Cap Java is based on Spring Boot, I've been looking for some things, how to configure some things, how some things work, etc. And what those guys do, they have like SAP Tacket, the equivalent to SAP Tacket once a year with Spring 1. And they do upload at least a majority of the videos to YouTube. And I think there was already one this year, and I've been looking for the videos, Spring 1 2020. No, it's in September. There was another conference where they promised to provide the recordings. That didn't happen yet. Probably if you're interested, I'll update you. Also this one. Alrighty, so I think that's enough for like a warm-up in the morning. What we're gonna do today. So basically, I had discussions with Vitaly, discussions with some guy from the community, and some, well, not arguments, but discussions with how to determine when to use Kubernetes or Cloud Foundry. And oftentimes it's like, no, Cloud Foundry, why should I use it when I could use Kubernetes? Because, well, in Kubernetes, everything is scaling, etc. And I said, like, well, Cloud Foundry is also capable of doing scaling, etc. So how should we start? I think a good thing is always to write a couple of lines in coding. Well, a couple of lines in coding, a couple of code lines. So what do? We open VS Code and create. This time it's like not really SAP flavored. We create a plain Spring Boot application to show how that works. I have an extension installed. I think it's the Spring extension pack. I think it's the Spring Boot extension pack, and then you get like this initializer, which is usually the equivalent to, whoop, that's the wrong Chrome browser, to this page here, where you're able to provide a couple of parameters and you get a fully configured Maven project. This time we're gonna do that via VS Code. Also, whenever you have questions, let me know. When I'm too fast, when I'm too slow, and I don't want to have a new terminal because I already have one. So let's create a Java project. And our group ID is com.scaling. It's my demo. And we use the latest snapshot version. And the only dependency I want to have in this case is Spring Web. So that's all I actually need. What do we have here? Let's do a actually live. Where do I have it? On my desktop, perfectly fine. And I should have open folder, live. Okay, here we go. It's a plain Spring Boot project. All I want to do is what I wanted to do. I'm like so confused. Let's create a dummy handler. Let's call it hello controller, and I oftentimes forget the very basic things. That's why I use the snippets in VS Code. I have to admit that I often use just those thingies here to get a REST controller, for example. So that's my hello controller. I don't really use any of this. I'm using the basic path. I don't have any parameters. And call it test. And let's hello from hello controller. Import those thingies. It's Option Shift O to import those things. Pretty useful shortcut. Add the package declaration, and we should be fine if we try to run that locally. That would be a fail if that already failed. Yes, in the wrong folder. Sometimes it's good to have a little bit of silence. It's strange how fast I get used to talking for a whole hour on a stream to like my screen. Therefore, please entertain me every now and then in the chat. Okay, application started. Let's open a new terminal and call that thingy. Hello from control. Perfect. So since we want to talk about scaling and Cloud Foundry, etc., let's deploy that thingy to Cloud Foundry. Therefore, we create a manifest YAML. And once again, using a snippet because I'm like manifest. My favorite is being able to see text in the screen the gap. Well, I've also played around with the position of the camera and like it ends here, and well, yeah, it is how it is. So the manifest file, my application is called demo. I do want to have a random route, that's fine. The path to my actual application is on the target, and we don't have any yet. So let's do that. Creating, come on. See demo, Maven clean install. I do that for a certain reason, cause I can't remember the app name and I do want to copy the path. Here we go. Copy relative path. And since we are already here, and we don't define any memory, and that's all we need to deploy to Cloud Foundry. So, bump up the font size once again. I think and I hope it's big enough for you guys. Always forget to bump up the font size. That's like a routine I have to get used to. So I'm logged in to my trial account on SAP Cloud Platform. Could be any other account. And I want to push the application. So it's implicitly looking for a manifest file in my code directory. And since I've defined one, DJ Adams, this is Java, I thought you didn't want to see it. Ooh. By the way, I thought of doing all these things in Node, but I feel like that's not me. That's not me. Probably the one or the other is here because of Java, and then switching over to Node.js wouldn't be a really good idea. But we keep it super simple today when it comes to coding. It's more about how Cloud Foundry works and how the corresponding service works. Hopefully we get to that point. It's 16 after 9. Keep your friends close and the enemies close. Come on, Cloud Foundry. So let's take a second. What is my next step? Yes, here we go. And if we do a keep in mind, well, we do it because I'd like to fail. If we do a HTTP, well, let's do it anyway without anything. Call wouldn't work. Would work. I stumbled over this a couple of times. Here we go. Alrighty, so let's bring up another terminal. Bump off the font size, I guess. So what we want to do, we bring up another one, and what I love to use whenever it comes to like scaling, etc., or monitoring in general is CFTop. I've recorded a video about CFTop if you're looking for that. Hopefully I'm able to put the link wherever it is in the replay. You in the live stream can't see it, but I hope you know it. So CFTop presents you a list of applications you have access to. And those in, damn it. Let's just get rid of my, how do we do that? I've played that through already, so I want to get rid of the things I've prepared. Cannot delete service. Yeah, I've written a helper function in my shell to get rid of all things in my Cloud Foundry space. So it might take 1 or 2 minutes to get rid of all my stuff. Then I'll deploy the thingy once again, just to go sure that I'm not faking anything. Yeah, there's somewhere a mistake in my script. So CFA, no apps, no services already. So let's deploy the thingy once again. In the meantime, let's have a look at CF apps, CFTop. Pretty awesome tool, I think. Well, initially I'd use it every now and then, but like it's so useful because you don't have to update all the things once again, and you don't have to type the things. It's just using your cursor or like any other alternative if you don't have a cursor or if you don't have a mouse. Looking at you, DJ. And you don't have to remember all the app names. Like, as you can see, my app names, or if you can't see it because of the font, I have no idea how to change the font size in here. They're super long and for a reason, and typing in those app names manually is sometimes really a mess, and CFTop takes away the pain of doing that. All right, so the app is starting. The future is terminal. The future is terminal, or the feature is terminal. So come on. All right, so the app is deployed. Let's go show that it works. Do you interested? Cool. All right, perfect. And let's go to. Let's open it once again. I have no idea why it doesn't recognize that there is a new app. Nice. So here we go. Here's my app. And so what I actually wanted to do is to define a new route. Shut down. And it says, well, never ever use system out println, but I don't want to use a logger now. It's shutting down. Yep. What's going wrong here? What did I do wrong? Should only be the post mapping, to be honest. Well, let's build it and see what happens. And actually shut down the app. Look, I'm so confused without defining the actual method. Public string shutdown. So, okay, whenever I send a post request, nope, we don't want to return anything. Whenever I send a request to shut down, the app should shut down, as it said. So, maybe clean install, and once this is done, Maven clean. Oh, come on, what am I doing today? I only want to see, to be honest, my YouTube live stream on the other one. So, Maven clean install worked. Hopefully, we should have this thing over here, and let's push it again. And I think it's like the first exciting moment. What happens if I shut down my app? What does Cloud Foundry do with that? Therefore, let's prepare something over here. What do we prepare? As you can see, the app is taken down. Hopefully it comes back in a second. In the meantime, let's think about what we could do is let's do something. Don't look at me while I'm adjusting my terminals here. I know that a window manager would be better, but I'm not used to use one, and sometimes I wish I would be better with window managers, but anyway. So, so we want to do a while loop, and come on. Wow, that's like something I don't want to see. Let's push it again. See if instances are unavailable. Awesome. Okay, in the meantime, let's prepare what we want to do over here. So in one window, this one is starting, by the way, over here. I want to send requests to the app, and it should return me this hello from hello controller. And in the other one, I'm trying to shut down the app in the meantime. And I really want to see what happens if I do that in parallel. And I'm open for guesses already in the chat. Would be really nice if my deployment would work. Otherwise, I'm screwed. And we do have to play a little bit of guitar in the meantime. I have it next to me, so I'm prepared for everything. Vitaly is wondering about your guitar. Is he? You mean this lovely thingy over here? Nope. Don't gonna do that. If there's enough demand, probably. Otherwise, no. Wasting so much time with the deployment. I really have to think about doing more steps between the deployments. Waiting for app to start. Sweaty hands. Yeah, so give it another 5 seconds, otherwise I'll have a look for some entertainment in the meantime. What's really important, and I think it's one of the prerequisites you probably need to know if you're working with whatever cloud native tools you want to work with, is so-called 12-factor app. Really useful when it comes to how do you shape, how do you configure your app, what prerequisites do you actually need, and in the meantime the app is started. And once you fulfill like a majority of those factors, it makes sense what happens in a couple of seconds. So my app is available under this route. So let's go through it. And curl it in a while loop until I stop it. Here we go. Gives me every 1 or 2 seconds, so it sleeps for a second, the output of my controller. And the other one, let's do a post to the shutdown thingy. All right, so there's a couple of things to have a look at now. Have a look at what happens to the app over here and what happens in the output on the top one. The update over here takes some time, but you didn't see it, but it's restarting because I've shut it down. And that's like something what blows my mind at the beginning was, why does that happen? I mean, Cloud Foundry is self-healing, so once a container, for whatever reason, crashes, Cloud Foundry starts to, was a dumb idea to stop that over here, but we could do that once again. Self-healing the whole app, and as you can see, we have like index 0. What does index 0 mean? Anyway, so let's do that once again. Shut down the app and let's see what happens once again. So usually it's restarting and I get a 404 not found because the app is not there. And it should happen in a couple of seconds that the app is back and I will get the usual feedback. So, come on. Here we go again. App is back and I get the usual output. All right. Let's do one thing. Actually, it's not really resilient, right? You have an app in the cloud native environment, and once my app crashes, I get a 404. Is that like really intentional? I don't think so. So what we could do is, and in fact, let's prepare our app for our next experiment, is one thing. We have the app running and I want to SSH into my app. Since it's just a container, it's not a Docker container, as we talked with Vitaly on my stream. It's a Diego cell, which is the equivalent to a Docker container somehow in the Cloud Foundry environment. And pretty cool to know. In the meantime, the Cloud Foundry community is working under the hood to bring Kubernetes as like the base layer for Cloud Foundry, but still keeping the Cloud Foundry developer experience to surprisingly developers. All right, so so we wanna do the app is called demo, right? Doesn't work cause SSH is not enabled. Let's do a help. Every now and then it makes sense to do a help. But where do we have enable? Don't we have it in here? Okay. Let's do a CF enable. For my demo app. And usually you need to, is it restart or a restage? I think a restage is enough. That this configuration is taken into account. So I could now easily with one command SSH into my demo app and have a look at the container and all the things running in there. Give it a couple of seconds until my app is restaged. And if anybody on the stream has already worked with the Graal VM, which is another JVM with a faster startup time, less memory consumption, etc., let me know. That's something I want to have a look at too in the next couple of days and weeks. Also having a look into Micronaut and Quarkus, some other Java. I was just about to say JavaScript libraries, but it's Java frameworks. The font size here is a little tricky. So let's SSH into my demo app. Cool. So you see, I'm just logged into the container and SSH'd into. And there's two things. Probably it makes sense to show that as well in the documentation. Because we had a look at this index here. So it means that there might be more apps or app instances running. And there's a documentation for that. We have some environment variables indicating that an app might have multiple instances. For example, there is my instance GUID with, well, obviously a GUID and an instance index. And if you have a look for that, was it instance index? Yes, this is 0. And the other one was instance GUID. Nice. So let's do one thing and prepare my app to do exactly these things. Private string instance index, and I have a private string instance GUID. I always forget how to, was it? What's the pattern for environment variables in Spring? I think it's CF instance GUID and the instance index. Let me just give you a second. Spring environment. If that's like the right syntax. Dollar. Perfect. That should be fine. Let's also bring that into here. Instance index plus GUIDs plus all right. So whenever we hit the endpoint, I do want to have a feedback of which instance index is it and which GUID. So I do want to have a differentiation between the app instances. And we do exactly the same thing again to deploy it. In the meantime, what happens here? Illegal state, wow, what? What the hell is going on? Card test execution. Fuck it. Well, you. What was the default one? Damn it. Here we go. So while it's compiling, it's testing if there's if it's all in the right way. And since we don't have a CF instance GUID locally or whatever, it's not able to set the variable. Therefore, we need to define a default one. And hopefully it works now. It's so funny how fast an hour is like running by, or however we want to call it. It's 40 minutes already, and I thought that like I could cover way more today. So perfect, build works. CF push, and in the meantime, while this is deploying, just make sure. Usually it should go into another state here. And funny enough, my SSH tunnel is quit. There is something over here. And let's have a look if the command is also explained here. CF scale. Here we go. So let's have a look at CF scale. Because what we want to do is actually, once one instance crashes, the app should still be available, and another container or another instance of the app should jump in and cover the request, right? Okay, so let's have a look. What could we do here? So I have 4 options. And the only option we want to cover today, to be honest, is this one over here, number of instances. So is this, by the way, yes, perfect. So I'm super confused. I'm just so excited because it's so much fun when like 3 things happen in parallel. Perfect. So we get the index, we get the GUID of the instance, and we get the feedback from the original controller. The format is improvable, but that's how it is, right? So let's just try it out. CF scale, the app name is in my case demo. And I want to have 2 instances. Let's see what happens. Well, it was too fast. We got another instance over here, and hopefully what you should see in a couple of seconds is once this is like ready, we should get another output over here. Yes, here we go. As you see, the state is running, and we have another output over here. And it's like the load balancer, or I'm honestly not really sure if it's called load balancer in the Cloud Foundry environment, or the Go router is routing the requests on a robin round scenario or whatever. I'm not really sure. And that's the cool thing. I don't really have to know, because Cloud Foundry takes away the pain of configuring all these things. The only thing I have to do is care about my application, not about infrastructure. I'm an application developer, not an infrastructure developer, right? Okay. So what else do we wanna do? So what we could do once again is let's crash one instance and let's see if the app is still working. Okay. We want to send a output to my app once again and try to shut it down. And we do have an eye on what's happening in my log output over here and in CF top on the right hand side. Alrighty. And as you can see, I've shut down obviously index 1. And well, CF top reacts somehow a little slowly. Could be indeed a little better. Or did I miss that it's already restarted? No. Come on. But obviously, as you can see, we only have one. Here we go. It's restarting and self-healing. And hopefully in a couple of seconds, not only my instance 1 is respawning, but also my instance 0 is respawning and takes over the load of my container. The load of my request. Wow. Talking and doing in parallel is challenging. Well, that's probably the downside of a Spring Boot application, that the cold start time, is it called cold start time? The cold start, whenever you want to start up the app, takes some time. And here we go. My app is fully healed again and 2 instances are responding. So it's 9:45. And I'm really thinking about if we should start what I actually wanted to show you. Well, we could... I don't want to go over 1 hour, definitely, because my brain is already like exploding, and hopefully yours too. Otherwise, my job is not done here. If we should start look into auto-scaling, but I'm definitely sure we won't go into actually realizing auto-scaling. Or we should stop here and rather start completely, not from scratch, but start with auto-scaling in a full hour next time. Use the chat. That's like, you got all the power over me. Strange enough that CF top is like still restarting here. Because actually, yeah. In the meantime, well, use the chat and let me know what's your impression. Should we start or should we stop here? Well, that's fine that I could use the command, perhaps give us some reading material to prep for next time. Yeah, let's do that. Okay, so, well, that's fine that I'm able to scale this thing manually by this command over here. But is that really intentional? I could also say Cloud Foundry. Let's check. I should have a manifest helper instances. You could also say, well, start up with 2 instances or start up with 10 instances. But is that the beauty of Cloud Native, or is that the beauty of auto-scaling or scaling in general? I don't think so, because you're like in charge of guessing how much load you actually expect on your application, and you don't want to react like whatever. Imagine a web shop during Corona gets a lot of load whenever, for example, in Europe over daytime or in China over daytime or whatever, and you have to scale the app. Is that intentional? I don't think so. So let's scale that thing down. Whoop. And have a look at one service provided by SAP Cloud Platform, which is called Autoscaler. And I think it's a good idea to autoscaling. Let's see how many entries we get for autoscaling in the help documentation. And there's one application autoscaler service. Let's have a look at that together before we actually realize that autoscaling thing, depending on a couple of parameters. It's not anymore your responsibility to scale whenever it's needed. I actually want to have it automated. So the application autoscaler service is designed to automatically scale up or scale down bound application instances based on user-defined policies. All right, so the command to scale with its parameter is as follows. That's what we've done already manually, right? The automatic scaling option triggers spontaneously and prevents the application from crashing. What you've just seen, if you have one instance and I shut it down and I shut it down with just one situation which could be caused by whatever thingy, database is not available, you have in Java a null pointer exception which causes your application, well, a null pointer exception shouldn't cause the application to crash, but if there's a huge load and your application can't handle those requests anymore, it's the same thing as actually crashing because your user doesn't really get any response. So what's the benefit of this service? Enables application to dynamically adapt to changing application load. That's what we want to have. Helps efficient utilization of resources, means it scales up whenever it's needed and it scales down whenever it's needed. Avoids manual intervention while scaling up or scaling down application instances. That's what I just said. You know, you don't want to intervene with CF scale whenever it's needed. All right, so let's anyway just start and have a look how that works. And well, usually we could try both ways. I'm not a fan of the SAP Cloud Platform cockpit, but let's have a look if we can find anything with regards to autoscaling. So I have my space over here and I have an app running, demo, and I have no services. Let's have a look at Service Marketplace if we can find something with autoscaling and hopefully the very brain, come on. What the fuck? Anyway, here's the autoscaler service. And we only have one service plan and allows for scaling rules and 2 schedules per policy document. Features are already explained. We rushed over it in the documentation. All right. How do I use this service? And let's just go over and see how that works. And I think the documentation, well, I definitely agree that the documentation for SAP is sometimes improvable, so to say. But I think for some things in Cloud Foundry, it's really good, and you just have to take your time, stare at it for some time, try out things. In the beginning, I thought like, well, that doesn't really help, but oftentimes it really helps to just go over it once again. And I think DJ, who's on the stream or on the chat again, really agrees, because we do sometimes things where we say, what? How does that work? And going over the documentation once again, take your time, really makes sense. Okay, so prerequisites, Cloud Foundry CLI, check. Log on to the Cloud Foundry instance using the console client, check. Let's make sure. See if target. I'm logged in. Be a space developer and choose a space. Obviously I am, otherwise I couldn't deploy apps. Deploy the application required for scaling to SAP Cloud Platform. Check. So I think we're fine to go. Good to go. To use the application autoscaler service, create an instance of the service and bind the service to your application. Well, sounds pretty easy, right? Check the service marketplace to see if the application autoscaler service is listed using the command cf marketplace. Well, cf marketplace, or the short version is cfm. That's like exactly the equivalent what we've done in the SAP Cloud Platform. Wow. And DJ, tell me how ugly this output is. And I really feel guilty for not using your, by the way, that's a good bridge. Terminal tips, SAP blocks. for using one of your terminal things. DJ wrote like, is it 5 or 6 blog posts about how to adjust CFC output, etc., which is super helpful, but I didn't have time to do it actually. Can I suggest to you? Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Passing CF apps out app logs, I think, is the right blog post for that. Yeah. Oh no, it's log outputs. Anyway, really recommend those terminal tips. Let's put it into the chat as well. Where do we stop? CF Marketplace, yes. And there should be a autoscaler service. Perfect. So let's create the service. What do we need? Create, come on. Where was the documentation? So, create service, service name plus service plan, plan name plus the instance. Well, let's take it as it is and see how that goes. By the way, we don't need that anymore right now. And let's just create the autoscaler service. And funny enough, what we could do, I think it's super important to understand it, and you can't rephrase it or repeat it often enough, is if we have a look at the environment variables of my app, you can see that there is like vcap application with some information about the application itself, some information about the CF API, the space, etc., etc. But what we do now is go back to the documentation. Sorry for jumping back and forth every now and then. You created the service, now you want to use it in the app, so the only thing you have to do is to bind the service. CF bind service, application name, demo, instance name, is probably my service instance name, -c, file name JSON. What's that? The JSON file contains rules for scaling the application instance. Well, let's have a look at what's in there, because that's what the autoscaler service said. 5 minutes to go, perfect. Poly on user-defined policies. Probably the JSON file contains the policies. So scaling policy. I don't want to read that all. I do want to do it, right? So dynamic scaling policy. That's my JSON content in here, and let's stare at it for a second. I have the instance minimum count, the instance maximum count, and now I have the scaling rules, which I want to use. And I think it's worth to stare at it for like the last 2 or 3 minutes, is actual, as the name says, the rule on how the service should scale up and down the actual app, based on a metric, based on a threshold, and then like this is the if statement, and this is the then statement. So if the metric type memory used exceeds 90, as in 90%, it should scale up 1 instance. And if the memory used goes below 30%, like below 30%, it should scale down the app with 1 instance. All right, or with the metric type memory utilized. What was the different memory utilized was, one is an absolute value and the other one is a percentage. Or there are other examples. Or was it explained somewhere? No, it isn't explained here. We have to look it up somewhere. Or on a metric type throughput, like how many requests per second. Or do we have any other? example. Well, yeah, and that's super important because I've been playing around with it and I stumbled over and failed with it, or failed at it once, not only once, a couple of times, is breach duration seconds and cooldown seconds. And those two things are very important to know how that works, because this is like the time frame where the service has a look at it. So 600 seconds is like, okay, I'm analyzing the memory usage for 600 seconds as in 10 minutes. And if during that time the memory used exceeds 90% of the actually allocated memory, it scales up one instance. And the important thing here is it waits for at least 300 seconds until the next trigger, the scaling trigger, is sent. So for example, if I have a memory usage of 100% during 10 minutes, I get another instance. And if it goes down directly after those 10 minutes, at least for 5 minutes, it stays as it is until the next scaling action is taken. So like this one, cause we are then below, for example, below 30% of memory usage, it takes away one instance of the app. And just to finish up, or to wrap it up, let's do that and use one of those things over here. Where am I? Let's do it over here in VS Code. I have a demo and I want to have a config.json. Let's just copy it in here. Doesn't matter what we're doing here. Just to bind the service and show what we actually wanted to show is cf create name bind service and use the help documentation. Cf bind service. The app name was demo. My service instance was called my service, right? And I can provide a configuration for the service via a JSON file, which is in this case my config.json. And it's binding the service to the app. And that's a brilliant one that there's like this tip, cf restage demo, to take into account the service binding. And what we could see then is pretty interesting and pretty important to know. Vitaly also discovered this yesterday, is what a service binding actually does. And I think it's beautiful. It's not only a concept of Cloud Foundry. Kubernetes has the same thing with secrets, etc. from my point of view. And let's have a look. To be honest, those policies are like, for me now, not really important because it's hard to simulate a memory usage above 100%, 90%. I've tried that out. I'm not even able close to simulate that. But just to see the service binding and see how you can deploy or create a service with a configuration in a JSON file. So we are at 10 o'clock and we are almost done. So, perfect. And let's do that once again. What we've done before is to have a look at the environment variables of my app. And it's fun to see sometimes what actually happens. So we have recap application, which was there before, completely untouched. And we have a new one, recap services, with the information of the service. With a URL of the service, which is used internally, the password, the username, and some information about the service itself. And I think that's where we continue next time, hopefully. Therefore, let me use my Stream Deck over here, my initial screen. Therefore, thanks for watching. As a reminder, do we have it somewhere? Nope. DJ is streaming on Friday, tomorrow. So have a look at his stream or his replays. Highly recommended. Also, my colleague Kevin Music. Let's bring it up. Nope. I'll post the link into the chat. Has started live streaming about Swift programming. So all sort of stuff for macOS or iPhone or iOS in general. Therefore, hopefully I'm able to find it in a second. Where are we? Yes, here's his next stream. Otherwise, thanks for watching. Thanks for being with me. I think it was quite okay today. Let me know if there's anything you would change, if there's anything you want to know, whether it's in the comment section, Twitter, SAP community, Slack, my phone number if you want to have it. Otherwise, have a nice day. Thanks for watching. Bye.